Hello, and welcome to Fusion Writing, where building character meets creating structure. This is Tuesday. It's our map day, and this means we get down to the business of the subject matter. And boy, do we have an interesting topic this week. I won't take up any of Victoria's time. I'm going to send it right over to her. Victoria?
Excellent. Okay, guys, so this is where story writing gets really exciting for me. And the main reason is because, and I'm sure you writers know this, the beginning of a story is all things possible. It's always so much fun to think about, do I want to go this direction or that direction? Do I want to work with this character or that character? Just that process of brainstorming and kind of rapid fire thinking about your story can be both energizing, and it can also help fill out some gaps that help drive you in the direction that your story needs to go. I would argue, however, one of the first things that you need to think about when you're thinking about that beginning part of your story, let's say the first third, the first quarter, somewhere in that neighborhood, you need to think about, what are you offering to your reader? Many of my favorite authors like to call this the setup. They like to call it the kickoff or the promise. It's the thing that you give the reader that brings them into the story. The reason I like to call it an offering is because you're making some kind of a deal with that reader. You're telling them, this is the kind of story this is going to be. Here's what you can expect. These are the premises. And then in the end, I won't spoil it because we'll get to the end later, but you're going to pay off on that. You're going to give them that. So what does that offering look like? Well, generally, you can break it down into the same ways that you break down writing a story. So for example, in my Zettelkasten for Fiction Writers book, which is forthcoming soon, the first part is about developing out your plot. You need to know where you're going. Now, I hear you pantsers saying, but I like to discover it. I like to discover it in the writing. That's totally fine. That process of discovering it in the writing is also a form of plotting. You're just doing it in reverse. You're going to go back at the end and make all that stuff fit together. It doesn't matter what order you do it in. But the important thing is, have a sense of where your story is going. The reason I would argue that you need that is because that helps you understand what you're offering the reader. In my novel, I knew it was going to involve a very old unreadable manuscript, and it was going to be wrapped around two very different characters who would become love interests. That was all I needed to know, really, in order to start writing. Then I started figuring out the plot points as I wrote along. So when you're looking at what am I offering, start with that plot situation, even if you're just starting with a few scenes. I know I want this to happen. Well, in order for this to happen, this has to come first, and that means this is going to come later, right? So you're just figuring out that story in space. That's part of your offering, because you're telling your reader, this is what's coming. I'm going to kick it off with something fun. I'm going to pull you into the story, and I'm going to offer you this thing. The second thing that you could be offering is a character. Perhaps it's a love interest. Perhaps it's buddies. It's two people that are going to go on an adventure and figure something out or discover something. Perhaps it's an ensemble and you have a group, and each character has different things that they need to learn about themselves and then different things that they're going to bring to the story. There's so many different ways to set up your offering. In that ensemble example, part of the offering is the fun of being one of the gang, right? If you've got these 5 great characters, think of the Scooby Gang, your reader gets to be the 6th member. They get to join the gang and live in that world with them. Same thing with your love interests. If your reader has reasons to care about these 2 characters, your reader gets to experience the growth of that relationship over the course of the book. So that's what I mean by the offering. You're giving them a situation to become a part of. You're giving them a relationship that they can either participate in or live vicariously throughout the story. Or maybe you're giving them some situation that they get to live in. If you've done crazy world building, you're giving them an entire world that they get to step into. That's all part of your offering. So for this week, what I want you to do is I want you to think about, what do I want to offer to my reader? A great place to start, and here's a quick tip, is what do you love? Begin with the things that you love in the beginning of a book that just pull you right into it. Make yourself a list of what could that be, and then start with that list when you start writing. Because you've heard me say before, if you are passionate and excited about your subject and your story, Your readers are going to feel that and they're going to love the story that much more. That's another thing that you offer them is your own passion and excitement for that project and that story. So get cracking on your notes. Start listing out some of those things that you love to be offered and things that you alternatively want to offer in your story. And next time, we'll go a little deeper into how to get yourself into the middle part. With that, I will throw it back over to Kathleen.
Okay, thank you, Victoria. What a fantastic introduction, not only to the book, but how to start thinking about creating your book. Well, I'm also going to be talking about this similar topic. I'm talking about the voices of the struggle. And what I mean by that is when decisions are being made consciously by the characters in your story. Now, a lot of times when you are creating this offering, which Victoria is instructing you how to build and how to set up, you're also setting up the baseline of your characters. You're setting up what struggles do they currently face? How do they currently handle the struggles? Where you're showing your readers where are your characters' strengths? What can they count on? Where are your characters' weaknesses? And the most important part is you're showing them where are they possibly going to do the right thing or possibly going to go off the rails, because that's all of your suspense in your story is going to hinge on the decisions that your character can make. Now, truly, you can put them on a cliff on the mountain and the suspense can come in whether the ground underneath them will crumble or not. But much more often, your story hinges on the choices that your character is going to make. And at the time of the offering is when you lay the groundwork so that your readers understand what's normal for your character. What can they count on from your character? You're offering them a person who has strengths and weaknesses, and most importantly, struggles. So you may not necessarily reveal the whole thing to your reader, but you need to start listening to the voices of the struggle, because that is going to let you know down the road when your plot starts coming together, where's the suspense going to come from? Because a lot of the suspense in your story is going to arrive from the question, will he do the right thing? Will he make the right choice? Will he go the right direction? And whether that has been created in advance, whether you've set the groundwork for the believability of that, for the likelihood of a good choice, depends way back at the offering when your character is entering his normal life. This is where you present, this is what the world has been like all along for your character before, boom, something comes in and shakes him up and makes the story get underway. So this peaceful, placid plateau of your story is your best opportunity to let your reader know what cards is your character holding in his hands, what are his strengths, what are his weaknesses, and more important than anything else, what does he struggle with? And think about and be sure you portray to your reader a certain struggle where sometimes he does okay and sometimes he's a little less than what he would like to have been in retrospect, because that's the decision point. That's the basis that's going to provide the suspense when he faces a similar choice, but the scale has been increased enormously. Is your character prone to not looking at the whole picture? Does he lack circumspection? Well, you can show that in the early days where he forgets to take his jacket and he gets soaked, even though he knew it was likely to rain. Well, that's foresight too. What character traits does your character struggle with, and how are you going to lay them out for your reader, and how are you going to weave them in an innocuous way, in a way that doesn't interfere with your story, doesn't disrupt your story, but just let your readers know it can be the simplest little side plot of your starting adventure. The smallest little thing, but your reader is going to tuck that away in the back of their mind and use that as their understanding of your character. So whatever you do, don't forget that the offering is also the time where you offer the character profile of your characters. How would you like to sum this up for us, Victoria?
That was fantastic. I love it so much when our topics dovetail so beautifully. This right here, guys, this has been a masterclass. I mean, if you're struggling with getting your story started, lean into these tips, and I guarantee it will give you a thread that you can grab onto to get that story rolling. So get your notes done, get over to LiLLiPub.org and join us where every Saturday at noon Central Time, we meet up on a Zoom call and we talk about these things. We do a co-writing sprint and we talk about the stories that we're working on. We workshop, we share. It is extremely friendly and welcoming. So do come and join us. We love to see you guys there and share your work because we're here to help.
Yep, that's LiLLiPub.org. And please come join us. You'll be glad you did. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.